Hello, all, and welcome to a new episode of the Cradle News Roundup. Today, I'm joined with the one and only Sharmin Narwani, columnist at the Cradle and geopolitical analyst. Hello, Sharmin. How are you?
Don't ask.
Okay. So, look, today I think we go straight to the news or the big news. Today, Aragji did, of course, several interviews with only American media, as he always does. And one of the most important thing that he said today, he had an interview on CNN and CNBC and maybe others. He said, we never asked for a ceasefire. We have never asked even for a negotiation with the Americans. And this also slams everything that Trump is saying since like 1 week, that Iranians are begging, and sometimes he's saying that Iran wants to negotiate and he's trying to like manipulate the prices of oil, I think, from these statements. But clearly, today, a few hours ago, the foreign minister of Iran said that they don't even consider or ask for negotiations with the Americans. How do you see this comment in the broad picture of the war and the region? Because what's happening currently is not only about Iran and Gulf countries. Now it's expanded, and everybody is saying that the oil prices will go up. And also, for instance, I just want to give info before I finish, let you continue. And for instance, Japan said that we will not send ships because Trump just asked us for sending it, for instance. And Japan is considered a very, very powerful ally. The same applies to North Korea. They said they are considering it, for instance. And they were more diplomatic than the Japanese. And today also, I think the Minister of Defense of France said that we are not sending ships to the region, despite that Macron is like pumping his chest every now and then, and he still thinks France is as powerful as it was like 200 years ago.
I mean, the Iranian foreign minister is saying that there's no negotiations, and we're not interested in negotiations at this point, because they've made it very clear that Iran has clear goals. They've done negotiations before. I was in Vienna when the JCPOA was struck in 2015, and I read that 100-page document. And there was nothing that the Western countries abided by. Nothing. The start of the JCPOA agreement had a lot of talk about goodwill being the foundation for this. So the expectation is, for instance, that Western companies will start heading back into Iran and doing business. And they knew they couldn't force them to do this, which is why the preamble is so filled with this term goodwill. None of that happened. Another negotiation round, another war, another negotiation round, which is now war. What's the point of negotiating? I mean, honestly, they would look stupid if they negotiate. The point is, Iran wants some clear-cut results out of this, because Iran has expended a lot of money and taken a lot of hits. Its civilian population, its civilian infrastructure has taken a lot of hits, as have public infrastructure. And so Iran's holding out for the time in which countries come to Iran, recognizing the aggression and the injustice being done, and negotiating a new paradigm. I mean, here's the thing. I think at the end of it, it's not just the Iranians, but a lot of other players in the world, at least middle states, who want a new paradigm. They don't want to be bullied. They don't want to be pushed around. They don't want to be threatened by terrorists, by sanctions, by threat of war, right? So if you're going to go all this way, why come out of it with a normal negotiating with the most unreliable negotiators the world has seen in modern times? So that explains his comment. And of course, we know, I think we've talked about this before, what Iran wants. Military troops U.S. military troops out of this region. I can't remember any of the terms now. Why?
They want
reparations for the damages done. Reparations for sanctions, the cost of sanctions on Iran's economy. These are legitimate. Obviously, the release of the funds
Yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
the one that they always talk about is that they want guarantees that this will never happen again.
Correct. I don't
Which
know how
is,
those
I don't know.
guarantees will
Yeah,
come. Yeah.
how
So
do you think they can do
I
it?
think Iran wants blood, and I don't mean to kill. I mean like, blood for the West is money, right? I think Iran wants that. That will show Iran that these countries, because they won't do it again then if they have to
Yeah,
pay for
exactly, ma'am. That's my question. How do you think this can be accomplished currently, knowing that, for instance, Netanyahu is the prime minister of Israel and he doesn't care at all, even for his allies, and we know the pressure that the Israelis are exerting on Trump, and his cabinet also is exerting pressures on Trump. So I'm not seeing how this can be accomplished unless, for instance, Trump is not there or Netanyahu is not there.
Yeah, I mean, precisely. How long have I been saying, Karim, on the show? Don't believe Western constructs. They just sound good on a press release and its headlines, like this Trump's peace initiative in Gaza or the IMAC corridor or you name it, right? They don't
Yeah.
have legs. All right. At this point, Trump is trying to do everything possible to show that there's more than just the Americans and Israelis on board any initiative, right? I mean, he's
Yeah.
literally calling out to countries, including China, saying, come join, come join. Let's unblock the Strait of Hormuz together. Why? Why would any country do that? By the way, even if Iran wasn't physically there blocking the Gulf, they could just shoot at any ship that tried to traverse the straits. It's not, how are you going to undo that? And of course, and this is something I've been dying to ask you, because I wasn't on the show yesterday. The Americans bombing the Khark Island, right?
Yeah.
And threatening to threatening to land troops there and take it over. This is, of course, I don't even think it's 20 square kilometers. I mean, it's tiny. It's the place where Iran reportedly holds something like 95% of its energy exports for export. It is like their launch to export, right? Trump said he stopped short of hitting oil facilities there. Well, because that would take oil off the markets and that would be upsetting, obviously, for even his allies. But how do they intend to do this? Do you know an island isn't mountainous, an island is flat, okay? Where are they going to hide? What are the U.S. troops going to do there as Iran sort of, picks them off? Crazy plans. He keeps vacillating back and forth between plans, right? One thing that interested me today, I caught on Twitter, was a Washington Post report that the chairman of the FCC has threatened to revoke government-issued licenses if broadcasters run what the federal agency deems, quote unquote, fake news. Okay. So what does that mean? Are they going to remove all US broadcasters for reporting Trump's fake news? I mean, his fake news is nonstop all day long, posted on Truth Social, What the heck? I don't know. I mean, it's the most bizarre thing because, usually you have rational moves, or even if they're irrational moves, you can see what's happening with the Americans and under this administration. It's a constant barrage of bluster, half truths, and plain lies. It's hard to even analyze from those points. The only thing I think we can do is analyze from the perspective of the players in this region who are acting, how are they acting, etc. But I don't think any country having, I mean, now I think the Europeans are talking about restarting the, Esteban will always remember the name of the operation against the Yemenis.
Yeah.
I don't remember it. Do you remember it?
No, something Greek, like mythology.
Yeah. Esteban always had that, ready to go. But they're thinking of reviving it and going back in. But how crazy is that? They couldn't even stop Ansarallah.
Exactly. We talked about this yesterday. I will give you my input about this. But first, let me answer your question regarding the island that they bombed. And also, I want to tell you that Trump, after he bombed island, he said we might bomb it again just for fun. Look how cruel, how crazy this man is. He's the president of the United States. He said it was nice. We might do it again because it looks very nice. We will we will have fun with it. So first, regarding this island, ironically, we didn't talk much today, Charmaine. But
while you're talking, can I
yes.
send you Trump's actual quotes so that you
Yes,
can
yes,
put
of
them up on the
course.
screen? Here, let me
Yes,
do
so-
that now to you.
No
Go ahead.
problem.
It's coming to you. All right, your account.
Yeah.
It's,
So
it's there now.
Yes, so today I just watched an interview with Larry Johnson, who is a former intelligence analyst at the CIA, and he talked in an interview, and he said that the Americans already damaged half of the runway of the island, and he said, according to his information, only small planes, small cargo planes or small military planes can land there, and these planes usually they are not as powerful as the C-17 or 18. And he said that they are slow. So if the United States wants to make a drop inside the island, it will be very difficult, and they will be like sitting ducks. And also, he affirmed that if they want to maintain it, they have to send food and logistics either by sea, which is very easy for Iran, and if by slow helicopters, Iran will easily target them. So, in his view, this is nearly impossible militarily, but of course, currently with Trump and Hegseth, everything is possible. You know, they might try to make such an operation. And regarding this terminal, as you said, Sharmeen, it is responsible for 90% of the exports of Iran, but it's not the only terminal for Iran. Iran has 5 terminals used for internal stuff, and also some exports also to other places. But this is very important. And also regarding this, but the problem, Sharmeen, is not in exporting and producing oil. The problem is by delivering the oil. This is the problem of Hormuz. So even if they destroy whatever they destroy, or control it, or even like control it and export or try to export from it, but the problem is that they can't export from the sea. And we know these countries, all their infrastructure is on the Gulf shores. And if they want to see another option, it's impossible, because such infrastructures cost billions and trillions of dollars in the region, and also they need years and years to do it. Regarding also Trump, they need to like appoint from now on, after Trump, the United States, if they want to stay in the United States, they should appoint like a secretary just for the president to watch what the president is talking, because what Trump is saying is terrible. Not only for the United States, for his party, even for his family. What he's saying, he's so delusional. And for instance, yesterday he said that they destroyed 100% of the Iranian military capability, including missiles. Yeah. In the past 24 hours, Iran sent many missiles into Israel, and many missiles were like cluster bombs, and they arrived, and we saw them. We saw the damages in Eilat, we saw the damages in Tel Aviv yesterday at dawn, and also today afternoon. I'm talking about regarding our local time. And they are keep sending them. And just today, before we started, Sharmeen, the Iranians issued a warning for the ports in Dubai and in other places in the UAE, meaning the Iranians still have the capability. How can he say that? And also, why, if you destroyed Iran, why are you asking for all the countries to come and exhort their ships? Everything he's saying is nonsense, and it's clear that he thought that the war will end very soon and Iran will kneel as other nations, and clearly they had no idea about it. And now I will put
the Secretary of Energy just say something like the war will be over in
a few weeks.
I think he said 2 weeks. Did he say? I mean, it was.
And the Israelis sent it after Easter.
They sent what?
They said after Easter the war will end. And also, sorry, I want to thank Mavenil. Thank you for your support.
And please smash that like button. Esteban isn't here, but I
Yes.
noticed like really, really good, regular commenters are saying, please, I can hear Esteban's, voice in my head, smash that like button. So please make sure to do that. Okay, so here is Trump's declaration about hitting Harg Island. He said, "We have totally obliterated every military target in Iran's crown jewel, Harg Island. Our weapons are the most powerful and sophisticated the world has ever known. But for reasons of decency, I've chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island because they want to take it, right?" Yeah, and then go to the other one I sent now because that's also just what is this man?
He's going crazy. Yani.
No,
There's
but I
no
don't
way
I don't
out.
even think like I don't think Americans know how to report. Even the shills, they don't know how to report on this. Put
Of
the
course,
other one on the screen. No, the other one.
yeah, I'm putting it. But the problem
Okay,
also,
yeah.
Charmaine, I watched also, they were asking like the foreign minister, they asked the Pete Hegseth, the minister of war, all, and even Trump, all are saying that we are faster than schedule. And no reporter till now asked them, what's the schedule? You
No,
know,
they are. To be fair, they are.
they are
But
ahead of the
they don't
schedule.
dare repeat the question when it's not answered. That's the thing. They're afraid. They're afraid of losing access. So many countries, here we go, especially those who are affected by Iran's attempted closure of the Hormuz Strait, will be sending warships in conjunction with the United States of America to keep the strait open and safe. We have already destroyed 100% of Iran's military capability. What? But it's easy for them to send a drone or two, drop a mine, or deliver a close range missile somewhere along or in this waterway, no matter how badly defeated they are. Hopefully, China, France, Japan, South Korea, the UK will, what does that mean? Hopefully, China. What? China's getting its oil, right? In fact, we're hearing from people that Iran is selling its oil. I don't actually know how. I think we need to dig deep into that. Maybe we won't publish it if
And
they
also,
could into those things. But I mean, wait, can you go back to the screen? Because here's the thing. He said we've destroyed 100% of Iran's military capability. And on your telegram, I sent you some destruction of Tel Aviv pictures today. I think that they're saying it's the third biggest Iranian missile drone attack on Tel Aviv. What do you say about that, Karim? Have you been following that?
yeah, yesterday,
You can take this off
a
the
news,
screen.
the news came out from the Israelis and say that they said that we are now in shortage of interceptors. And everybody panicked inside Israel. The media that are with Netanyahu and against Netanyahu both panicked, and they are saying, "How you say that? Even if we are, we should not say that." And as we saw yesterday, some missiles hit in Tel Aviv and in Eilat. Usually, they are not targeting Eilat. Yesterday, they targeted it more than once. And look. I have to like give an idea what I thought when I saw these. First, Eilat was not targeted, and maybe people in Eilat or Israel they thought that Eilat is safe, and they concentrated everything in the center of Israel. But I think this move from Iran forced them to maybe move some of their interceptors and military equipment to the south of the country. Which also makes like the probability of missiles reaching both sides increase. And also let us not forget that Hezbollah is always targeting
يونس أفضل
technical issue. So that's what's happening, and more missiles are arriving. And for instance, this one is from a fragmented missile, and also we have to know that these missiles they are equivalent like to 30 airstrikes or 30 like drone strikes across Israel, which of course are making the Israelis panic. And yesterday the media said that around 3 to 4 million Israelis went to shelters and up and down and up and down 4 times. And I watched some interviews with Israelis. They are, of course, not happy of what's happening in their country. And yeah, so the only people that I think they are somehow delusional are mostly from the United States. They still don't feel and don't acknowledge the weight of this war. They might do after 1 week, because all the analysis in the world, they are saying the third week the world economy will start a recession because of the oil and gas shortage. And not also that, also we have to know that pesticides, 35 of pesticides that are used in the world, there's chemicals that are used in the pesticide. 35% of these chemicals come from the Gulf countries.
Fertilizers,
yes.
to grow, crops, etc.
So it's very dangerous. But also I have to clarify something, Sharmeen, because many people don't know about it. And Arakji today said it more than once, that the Strait of Hormuz is not closed. And for the Iranians, it's not closed militarily. We are targeting ships that are with the United States or with the Israelis. That's why I'm telling you also he's lying. He's saying that they are unable to put mines in the sea. The Iranians said we didn't even think about it now, because we are controlling it.
The
don't need for mines.
even said they bombed Iranian mine-laying vessels, but they're not laying mines. What are they on? I mean, it's literally war by headline is what the Americans are waging. And for those of you who haven't seen the interview, the Rock the Cradle interview with Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, check it out. He talks a lot about, I mean, we actually talk about how the U.S. is fighting a 20th century war with a very conventional mindset, whereas Iran is fighting a 21st century battle, irregular, is asymmetrical, smart. So we'll see how that goes. I did want to mention something. Oh, yeah. So the Iranians have also said they are aiming to get oil to $200 per barrel. And why is this important? Because right now, Karim, do you know what the price is for Brent crude today?
Yes.
Okay, because after the Strait of Hormuz closed, oil prices went up to over $100 a barrel. And then, a lot of statements were made, the Japanese saying we're going to give some of our supply, and then the G7 saying we're going to give our supply, and the war is going to be over soon. We've decimated the Iranian military. Things like that have kept the price of oil under 100. Still there today, Karim? Under 100?
No, it's the Brent oil is 103.
Okay.
$103. But the point, Sharmeen, we are on Sunday. Saturday and Sunday, the prices are fixed according to what happened on Friday. So on Monday, tomorrow, we'll see what will happen.
Nevertheless, they dropped 80s, 90s, etc., heading back up. But the Iranians want it at $200 per barrel. They may be happy with just a little bit lower, but there's a reason for it. In July 2008, remember when the big global financial collapse happened? Oil peaked at approximately $147 per barrel, and it was driven by various factors at the time, including, soaring global demand, geopolitical tensions in West Asia, and financial speculation. So this is oil then tanked because the world economy sort of contracted and the demand dropped. But this is a point in which markets could crash, right? What is Trump going to say if he can't say the Dow's over 50,000? As though the economy is based on the stock market, isn't. One has to really wrench these two concepts apart. So the Iranians want that pain to be felt. And to be fair, there is global oil and gas supply currently. When those reserves are out, that's when the pain will be felt. And there's no telling how high oil and gas prices can go at that point. And of course, this is part of Iran's horizontal expansion of the war to make sure that this war can't go unnoticed by anybody. If you hit our oil, we'll hit yours. If you don't allow us to supply or sell ours, we won't allow you to sell yours. If we can't refine ours, you can't refine yours. So the Gulf countries, even if they kicked out, all U.S. troops, which they haven't, U.S. is still actively in the Persian Gulf states. And somebody was telling me today that I don't know how accurate this is, but it's one of our writers. So he was telling me that U.S. troops are landing in the Iraqi desert, because for sure they have a plan B, which means destroying the Levant even further. And we have Ahmad Shara's jihadi forces on the Lebanese border and on the Iraqi border. The American troops have run to Erbil, but I'm hearing that American troops are landing in the Iraqi desert. I can only imagine what they're planning. Chaos, right? Chaos and killing. But will that stop Iran in the Strait of Hormuz? No.
No. I think it's like somehow a checkmate. They can't remove, according to them, the threat of Iran for Strait of Hormuz. Strait of Hormuz is very easy for Iran to close. People think that airplanes and bombing can stop Iran. Yani. We know Hezbollah 15 months did nothing, and they were subjected to more than 3,000 airstrikes, and the Israeli army and Netanyahu and even the foreign ministry of Israel said that we destroyed Hezbollah. Hezbollah no longer exists, and now we are seeing what Hezbollah is doing. And we have to acknowledge that Hezbollah is part of Lebanon. And not all Lebanese are with Hezbollah, or not all the geography of Lebanon is with Hezbollah. And Lebanon is 10,000 kilometers squared. Iran is 1.6 million. And the Iranians are the ones who taught Hezbollah and the Iraqis and the Yemenis how to produce missiles. So it's they can't stop it. It's illogic to think like that. Yani imagine the Israelis, what they did in Lebanon, what the United States and the Europeans did in Yemen, and they couldn't prevent missiles from going up. Why would you think that yani how can we say the mother of this axis, which is bigger than all of these countries combined, you can subject Iran to kneel and not to manufacture and send missiles? We know, if you remember, Sharmeen, I think after like 1 year, after 7 October, Hamas were still able to manufacture missiles underground. But we know that what happened in Gaza is like never happened before in history. So they were able to dismantle to an extent the military wing of Hamas, but in Lebanon they couldn't, and in Yemen they couldn't, and in Iraq, which is being occupied by the United States since 2003, and all the intelligence and many people in the government and the army are with the United States, and the propaganda and everything there, and they fully control the skies until now. For me, to be honest, most of the damages maybe that are we seeing, because on the Gulf country you can see, but what we're seeing from Iraq and from Erbil, they are the biggest in the region. The targeting of the U.S. assets in Iraq is huge. It's huge.
We need to do a deeper dive on Iraq, because it's not like the Iraqi government is the Iraqi government is kind of with the Americans.
Yeah, they released more than one statement condemning.
Yeah.
And they are condemning what the resistance is doing, and they are not condemning what the Americans are doing. All this war that is launched on Iran, most of the airplanes are coming from Iraq. And they are flying from Iraq. There is video footage, and the Israeli army released an animated map showing the path. They are not even trying to hide it.
But just the idea that the Iraqi government is kind of with the Americans on this, even the Shia political parties are not doing anything, right? They're kind of staying neutral, and it is the Iraqi resistance, whoever they may be, who are just changing things on the ground in Iraq, and it's quite remarkable. Of course, you have Ayatollah Sistani, the Marja of Iraq, who has, made a statement that is being interpreted in so many different ways. I guess it's not neutral. But it's not like the kind of statement when ISIS came in and took over big swathes of Iraq, and Sistani said every Iraqi should rise up against this and fight it. It's not what he said. But here's the reality. Back to the Strait of Hormuz. Every single day, 20 million barrels of oil are going offline, 20 million barrels that the world expected. There's a limit to how much that can be endured. Here's what I don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And I always say, for every action, there is a reaction. There always is. It could be a stupid reaction. It could be an unthought through reaction. It could be a provocative one. It could be a failed one. The thing is, many, many countries will not sit by. I don't know what they can do about the Strait of Hormuz. I genuinely don't think they can do anything about that. They will be lucky if they don't lose the Bab al-Mandab as well. They will potentially be lucky if they don't lose access to the Suez as well, right? So for those of you who think the Strait of Hormuz is the be-all and end-all, let me tell you, the Bab al-Mandab is where the Suez Canal is where global shipping goes. Of course, the Russians and Chinese now have other routes, right? But everyone else has to go, around from the Indian Ocean, around the Cape of Good Hope, South Africa, and up the other way into the Mediterranean to Europe. So shipping costs, insurance costs, etc. All of these things. Global economic catastrophe. So why don't you just give in? Why don't you just remove U.S. troops from the region and agree to compensate in the early days, so that the price tag doesn't rack up? Because it's a dying hegemon. The U.S. is a beast clawing onto relevance right now. And, we're afraid of the worst. If there were rational minds, there'd be meetings at the UN Security Council every day, and we'd say, okay, this is what we can do to unwind things. Right now, Iran has control over the world. I'm not chest beating over this. I'm saying literally, governments are calling the Iranian government and saying, can you allow us to move some shipping through the Strait? And that's working. And, to a certain extent, small amounts, but a lot of countries could go back online. But the ones who are behind the aggression on Iran will not. And I think this is a very amazing way for Iran to divide and rule, Karim. And they have the economic and financial clout at this point in time to divide and rule the whole world. And where will the parts fall?
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. I said what's happening is that if we put a balance for the hegemony of the United States, of course, is decreasing now because, for instance, if you are Italy or you are like Japan and you are, for instance, South Korea or all these countries that manufacture, Germany, although I don't think they will do it now, but I think these countries, if they want to maintain their economy and they want to be away of this war, this is the first time maybe since 1945 that these countries should not talk to the United States. They should go to Iran because it's clear the United States can't help you in maintaining your energy supply. The only country that can help you is Iran. And I think if this war persists and we saw the Americans pushing, for instance, for the Brits and other countries to join, only these countries will be harmed. I gave like an example yesterday. For instance, what happened in Iraq. We saw many countries join the war because for them Iraq is a cake and they want to take some pieces, and there was no consequences of, for instance, France or UK or whatever, or Australia or Canada bombing in Iraq. There was no consequences in their internal affairs, unless of course soldiers died. But now, for instance, if you're France and you want to send ships, the Iranians will target all the oil facilities for French companies. It will be a catastrophe. They will target French banks. They will even target French stores. So there is consequences of the actions of the West today. It's not like the Libya war, where Libya was very weak. The damage was also only inside the boundaries or borders of these countries. Iran is different. Iran can reach all these countries in the region and in the Arab Sea and other places. Yani, if France joined, for instance, I'm just giving France because the chest pumping of Macron is crazy. If a ship passing through, yani, going to Bab el-Mandab or going to the Arab Sea, the Iranians, they have the capability to hit it. You know what I mean? So that's a very, very... I think it's and for me, to be honest, I know it's not like mainstream to say it, but this is a very beautiful thing in geopolitics.
It is a beautiful thing in geopolitics. I mean, everybody wants that change. Everybody can see that, a bunch of billionaires control the world and control governments. They control elected governments, that this has to change, but there's no impetus for it to change. When the Iranians come out or their commentators and come out and say, we're going to get rid of the Epstein class, you can hear the bleachers cheer in America. You can hear them cheer in the UK. You can hear them cheer, Westerners in our comment section. So there are a lot of people saying, we're looking for Iran to get rid of the Epstein class, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I want to. You reminded me. I was opening it. That was like the next segue in today's episode. So Ali Larijani, Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council of Iran, said today some remnants of Epstein's team planned a conspiracy to provoke an incident similar to the events of September 11. And he continued and said, "We reject these terrorist projects and do not harbor any hostility towards the American people." What do you think about that, Sharbin?
Wait, who said that?
Ali Larijani. He said that some remnants of Epstein's team, that's why I remember the quote, planned a conspiracy to provoke an incident similar to 9/11 in the United States, so people will be against the Iranians because it's clear.
A false flag in the U.S. too.
Yes.
Make people think the Iranians were doing this. I have to say, I see Americans everywhere saying, "Oh my God, they're going to bring us a false flag now." I think eyes are opened. Of course, they'll make it seem like it's propaganda, right? They own the public, the media. They will publish these headlines. Will it change what happens in the Strait of Hormuz? No. I don't know. I think that Trump's biggest mistake was not to prepare his populations and get them on side before.
100%, yeah.
And now he's going to feel the impact of that because you betrayed your population. They didn't want it. You went ahead. You keep saying stupid things every day. The American public is seeing it, right? And they're going to believe a false flag now. I mean, that's the thing. Nobody trusts their governments anymore. Nobody, and I'm talking about the United States specifically. When you look at polls, as we have seen over the years, politicians and journalists are right at the bottom of the list. So I don't know. People, though, I will say when they feel extreme insecurity, will actually go back to believing their politicians and journalists. So there's no telling there. But the main point is back to the Strait of Hormuz. What can be done? And I just, I'll tell you what's I think interesting for me now that I really want to be watching, because in the first 2 days or so, 3 days, 4 days, we saw a number of Arab commentators questioning the viability of continuing this way, and there were obviously um, diplomatic channels open between Gulf states and Iran, and they were talking, and Iran was saying, okay, this is not us, this is us, this is not us. The only reason we're doing this is because this happened. You must stop letting Americans launch from your territory either drones or missiles, or be based there because they're hitting our people. We're going to hit their military, right? But now they're still doing it. And it really brings home the point that the U.S. military is not in the Persian Gulf to secure the Persian Gulf, because every country in the Persian Gulf, plus Iran and plus Iraq, they want to sell their oil and gas at fair prices. You don't need a military there to make sure oil flows, right? The reason the U.S. military is in the Persian Gulf is to keep the unelected leaders and monarchs in their positions. That's it. That's it. And so when push comes to shove, and I will argue, as y'all have heard me do before with Karim, that the Americans, that the Persian Gulf rulers have pushed back against the U.S. when their interests don't converge. There are increasing examples of that. But when it becomes existential for them, they literally only have the foreign colonial or imperial power to cling on to. So this becomes a more dangerous situation. Why would the UAE and Saudi and Qatar and Kuwait and Oman or any of these countries and Bahrain not have expelled, in a friendly way, all U.S. positions there already at this point? That would stop at least the attacks on their territory. If not, the Strait of Hormuz would stay closed until the Americans and Israelis give a response. But it would stop attacks on their territories, and they have not. So to me, it suggests that they are in an existential place, because if the U.S. military leaves, it means they could be overthrown. And I don't expect that in places like Saudi Arabia. I will be fair. Mohammed bin Salman has a lot of support of his people, especially the young, who make up the majority of the states. Let's be honest. But in Bahrain, that is clearly not true.
And
right?
Kuwait also is in danger.
Yeah. And the UAE, right before this all started, Mohammed bin Zayed, the president of the UAE, was under fire. And the organization of the 7 Emirates had been speaking up about whether this man was fit to because he's doing a lot of provocative things that Emiratis don't believe in, against Palestine, against whatever. They were speaking up. And so even Mohammed bin Zayed's role could be gone with not the UAE and its configuration, but his role could be gone in a massive bust up, right? So I think this is what we have to look at, because honestly, these Arab countries could save themselves a lot of bother if they just expelled all U.S. troops. End of story, right?
Yeah.
And came together and said, okay, let's have a new security paradigm and architecture in the Gulf. That would happen, all right? And then they would probably be able to sell their oil. Things would move more slowly, because Iran still wants reparations from the Americans and for this never to happen again. Correct?
Yeah, the problem is that they are very weak. Till now, they did nothing, Sharmeen. To be honest, you didn't see like anyone from these countries going to TV, talking to their people, explaining for the people what's happening, like answering.
No, they're trying to close.
As if nothing is happening. Yeah, that's insane, Sharmeen.
Wow.
Six countries. Only Oman is speaking, and only Oman they are expressing their political views under the war. Kuwait, UAE, Qatar, nothing. It's insane. It's 15 days, nothing. That's one. And I also want to, before we continue, I want to urge our viewers also to go check our latest interview that Sharmeen did with Colonel Lawrence, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. To be honest, he's very good. I learned many things from him, and I urge our viewers to watch it. This man has information, and his job was in the Gulf during the Gulf War, and he knows the mentality of the Americans, and he knows the mentality of the Gulf monarchies, and of course he gave us his valuable input during this interview. Yeah, so Sharmeen, also I want us to talk about something I prepared here, is that many news is coming now. They are saying that Israeli Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer reportedly made a quiet visit to Saudi Arabia last week. So this is in the news. They are saying that this is not the only meeting, but this is the only guy who was named. And they are saying till now the Gulf countries are maintaining like connection with Israel despite what's happening. And also, just today, as I mentioned, but I think it's very important, the IRGC issued warning for ports and vital infrastructure in UAE, because they said yesterday they are certain that many missiles that were fired into sorry, Sharmeen, help me here, the island. What's the name of the island?
Which one? Whose island?
Iranian island that was targeted. Yes. So the Iranians said that most of the missiles that hit there were fired from the UAE, and now the UAE, I think today they will start to pay the price. And I don't know the question is, Sharmeen, sorry, I want to ask you, because this is I can't comprehend. Is what's happening because of the American hegemony and the American power inside the Gulf countries, or they are still aligned with, and believe that Iran will lose? Because
No,
or either
there's-
they are so weak they can't even tell no to the Americans.
No, I don't think it's entirely that way. It's these are also very proud chauvinistic leaders. For Iran to have just done this little switcheroo on them, and in 1 week they have to remove all their security infrastructure, kick out the Americans, change everything, is a big humiliation. So I think the Americans and Israelis use that point, which, let's be honest, any country would not like, any leader would not like that, right? And would like a way out. And I am pretty sure they are being sold a plan to double down. The same people selling that to the Gulf countries is selling it to Donald Trump. All right? Double down, and you might score some wins. All right? You can't leave this way. It's really bad. It'll make you look bad. Double down. And so that's why I think this is going to go on for a while, because you might actually have the Gulf countries. I mean, honestly, if they get dragged into this, biggest mistake, they were right on. The commentary from the Persian Gulf was right on in the first week. They were all calling it right. But now they've gone quiet in this respect, and I think they're being persuaded to double down, because we will find a solution that hits Iran so badly that you can walk out with your head high, right? I don't know how that's going to happen.
Let us not forget the false flags that happened in Oman and Azerbaijan and Saudi Arabia. The Iranians were and Turkey, even Turkey refused to accept that Iran launched the missiles. And the Omanis, their statement tells us that, they believe the Iranians, and there is many false flags that happening in the region. Nobody knows from where. The social media, for instance, the Saudi social media, or the people on social media from Saudi Arabia, they are trying to imply, or they feel that they are coming from the UAE, because the gas terminals and oil terminals that were being hit, or the drones are trying to hit them, are coming from the side of the UAE, because the biggest oil field is there. That's what many people are suspecting, and why UAE is not downing the airplanes that coming through their skies into Saudi Arabia, but they are downing other other stuff as they announce every day. And every day, the Gulf countries just, I want to talk about what's happening for the non-Arab speakers, the news that don't go out in English or other languages. Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and UAE, their statements every day, they say that they fully downed all the planes and all the missiles. This is the 16th day that they say that. And if there was a fire or
Israel's running
video,
out of interceptors,
Yeah.
but these countries are not.
When there is a video, they will say, oh, that was a sharpnel, oh, that was from an interceptor, you know? And for instance, 2 days ago, the UAE sent like propaganda and people in different languages saying that there was an incident in a terminal, and it was not a fragmentation or whatever. And they are, this stuff happens.
It's
That's
like
one.
the USS Abraham Lincoln, right?
Yeah.
A fire in the laundry room.
Yeah, and also what's happening big time since 2 weeks in the Arab world is a hashtag in Arabic that's called Al-Khalij Laysat Qadiyati, which translates to the Gulf is not my cause. And why this is gaining day by day, spreading like fire, because during the war on Gaza and on Lebanon, many people, many Emirati, especially influencers, and some influencers from Saudi Arabia, they made a hashtag and they paid to advertise it, which was Palestine is not my cause. So now what's happening? This hashtag is all over Egypt, countries like Egypt, countries like Lebanon, countries like Algeria and Sudan. Oh my God, the Sudanese, they are very funny. Sorry, they are funny. If you go to Sudanese, I just translate what the Sudanese are talking and how happy they are because of what's happening from Iran to these countries, because Sudan was destroyed by not only the United States and the Israelis couldn't achieve what they did in Sudan without the Gulf media and the Gulf intervention and the Gulf money and the Gulf weapons, especially UAE. And the Somalis, it applies to Somalia, it applies to Libya. Yeah, these people know what's happening, and the Iraqis knew what's happening. The only ones that are delusional now, and they are playing with fire in the region, and even Saudi Arabia, not a single word except the Syrians. Do you have a comment about Sharia and his plans, Sharmeen?
I'm just saying that there's other ways to try to make Iran and its allies suffer, and it is to set off the Syrian theater again, right, in different ways where you have constant terror attacks. Because, I mean, it's an expansion, really, of the American-Israeli operation. The Americans and Israelis are launching terror attacks on Iran and on Lebanon, right? So this is just an extension. These, the ISIS and the Al-Qaeda guys now running Syria are all an extension of the American Gulf network, right? So they can blow that open again. They can, but again, it doesn't address the Strait of Hormuz. And let me tell you another element of the Strait of Hormuz, and I think I saw by the title of the show you guys did yesterday, you'll definitely address this, but let me put my 2 bits in. I mean, every dollar that's, spent on oil or gas, right? The petrodollar, right? Every dollar the Gulf countries get for selling their oil or gas. And they're selling to the whole world in dollars, not not the United States. The whole world is paying in dollars. What do you do with your dollars? You don't just let them sit in banks. You put them in the stock market, right? You buy U.S. Treasury bonds. You invest in American companies. You get sucked into the latest AI scheme and invest there, or the latest, here's how to listen in on your citizens, right, scheme, like intelligence, software stuff. They invest there. What happens when those dollars, it's not just oil from there being stopped. I mean, there's oil in other parts of the world, right? But this oil is meaningful because these countries have nothing to do except invest in American things. How does Trump pay back his national debt when even India is offloading U.S. treasuries and nobody's buying them, right? Because you could guarantee every day Persian Gulf Arab states are spending their dollars made from selling oil and gas and putting in the US stock market and buying US treasuries. So let them start whatever they want to in Syria and Iraq and whatever they want, okay? The Strait of Hormuz thing doesn't go away, and it has massive, massive implications for the US economy or financial system in particular, because when people stop buying this major commodity that keeps the global engines going, right? The global economic engines going, when they stop buying that commodity in US dollars and the US loses its position, the US dollar loses its position as the global reserve currency. And now that oil and gas in the Persian Gulf can now be sold in yuan, can be sold in rupees, can be sold in, whatever, Thai baht, right? Or Korean won. The US can't even spend on its military anymore, right? It can't. Printing dollars, the dollar then becomes subject to the same kinds of restrictions that other currencies have. It can fall. It can go up, it can fall, it can lose its value, right? The other thing, hold on, I want to mention about this, and I forgot.
Do I talk?
No, hold on, let me just see if it comes back. Wait. Oh, yeah, the U.S. is going to, Trump is talking about building all this, like, they're going to go into mass production and speed up production of all these. Lawrence Wilkerson was saying, we have a lot of bombs, but we don't have the other thing, which is what they need, right? Nothing can stop Iranian missiles at this point. That's what they need to stop. So how do they even build bombs? How does the U.S. military build anything? How do U.S. software companies and AI companies and like data centers build anything without Chinese rare earth minerals? Where is Trump heading in about 2 weeks? To China. What are the Chinese going to say? We're going to give you all the rare earth minerals you need so you can build these bombs and these interceptors and your AI and your intrusive software and do you know what I don't, there are so many points at which Iran and its friends can checkmate the Americans. It's about the political will to do so at this time, okay, and slowly amp the pressure up. So the U.S. could launch anything they want in this region. They still don't have the Strait of Hormuz. May then lose the Bab al-Mandab. May then lose entryway to the Red Sea and to the Suez Canal, right? May lose its rare earth minerals. European countries may rush to Russia at some point, a few months down the road, and say, we'll buy your gas. Russia's like, it's double now. I don't think I've ever seen a situation like this where the sort of less powerful bloc in the world has so much incredible leverage at this particular, at a juncture this critical for global geopolitics, global economics, global financial systems, global, shipping, global insurance, etc. It's kind of crazy. You got to love geopolitics at this moment.
Yes.
I don't think you've ever been in a moment like this, Karim.
I know. Man.
The cradle,
What's happening is so huge, Sharmeen, that there is many angles that people are not even talking about, and these angles are very important. And for instance, people that are outside the region may not comprehend or fully understand what's the meaning of weakening the Gulf countries, even without them switching sides. The importance of Gulf countries is huge. And for instance, I just want to give some examples. On 9/11, 2001, the first country that paid and sent their condolences to the United States was Bahrain. Bahrain sent money, and they said they are willing to reconstruct the World Trade Center the same day it was hit, and before it was fallen. Look at Bahrain now. For instance, when China started to invest in AI and DeepSeek and all these websites, what was the solution for the United States? Trump made a meeting with the AI tech companies, and they requested $500 billion. Who paid for that? The Gulf countries. He went to the Gulf to get this money, and they invested in it. For instance, why every single foreigner, for instance, that is watching, who's new now watching us, of course, he asks this question: why Arabs are divided? Why Arabs are not one hand against the Israelis? And the question is the Gulf countries. The Gulf countries, they pay every single individual that, for instance, has like influence. They pay him not to influence people to be hostile against Israel. They changed their curriculum according to what Israeli wants. For instance,
it's not the Israelis, it's the Americans. I mean, here's the thing: it's a really nice setup for Gulf rulers and monarchs and sheikhs and emirs. They sell their country's precious natural resources, and then they take the dollars paid and then they invest it in the U.S. and they have access to all the top companies. They can come into Google, they can invest in TikTok, whatever, right? They make loads of money, put it right back into amusement parks, sky rises, and always a guarantee that the Americans will be there backing them up, because the Americans also like, this scam, right? They like it. Everyone benefits. The Americans benefit.
Yeah,
Where are they getting all these investment dollars from? Where? China? No. Russia? No. Iran? No. Where are they going to get? India? Where are they going to get? It's like a way of cycling money through a system where these two parties just get enriched in perpetuity. So I do think, it's so exciting. It's kind of crazy. It's horrible, right? It's horrible. But this is what happens with journalists. We kind of get like this mad look in our eyes when the shit really hits the fan. So I'm sorry if I'm smiling or anything. It isn't a funny situation, but it's bloody interesting from our perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And today on Sunday, and I wanted this episode to be like the bigger picture of what's happening. We're not like going into details. I know, for instance, today the internal ministry of Lebanon, they announced that till now 850 Lebanese civilians were killed by Israel since the start of this war. And in Iran, the official number is around 1,300. So people are suffering, people are dying, but also the West and the Israelis and their backers and their allies are also paying the price of launching this war on Iran. And in the near future, if this persists, nobody, even the Americans, are seeing a good way to go out of this war or maintain the global politics of the world that was created after 1945. And for me, I thought the invasion of Ukraine will change many things, but apparently in these 15 days, what Iran did in the 15 days changed many things in the world more than what Russia did. I just want to also to thank Golnara. She's always watching us and she always donates. Thank you very much, Golnara. And also we have a comment from Golden Sun. He or she is saying, hello from A2 Michigan. Please stay safe, guys. We are trying our best. Thank you a lot. So Sharmeen, I just want to also finish my point regarding the Gulf countries, why I was mentioning them. And for instance, why it's at least according to my analysis, why, for instance, regime change in North Korea failed, and in, for instance, China and other parts of the world failed. Even in Afghanistan, they invaded and they put boots on the ground for 20 years and they failed. But unfortunately, in other parts of the world, which is our region, the United States and for Israelis succeeded in different places. And for me, is because of the role of the Gulf states in their media and in the sheikhs that they pay and their manipulation of the Quran and them getting like clerics that are willing to do whatever the king says, not what God and the Prophet Muhammad said. So this implied the rule and divide in these countries and created war and created sectarian war. And if there is no Sunni and Shia, they played on which tribe should rule where. So the Gulf countries and their media and the influencers that they paid, and even the best thing to give a analogy of or example is Syria, because they said it. They said we used to pay $1,000 for the soldier to just read on the camera that he's not with the Syrian army anymore. We used to pay $5,000 for a general if he reads that he's not with the government anymore. We saw what they did in the media. So that's what I am saying. If these countries are weakened, the nature of this region will rise again, because the logic of region is to be against the Israelis and the US hegemony, but their governments are not. They are paying billions and billions to maintain this mentality of Arabs, and if these billions don't come as it was before, the nature of this region will rise again, and I am certain of that.
I agree. I mean, when we started the cradle, it was kind of one of the words a word I used repeatedly in our Hello to the Cradle article, which y'all can all look up, was the word efficiency. And I said we put great stock in this word because there is an element in this region that is uncovered or undercovered, this axis. And this axis wasn't just Shia, it wasn't just Sunni, it wasn't just Muslim, it wasn't just Christian, it wasn't just Islamist, it wasn't just secular, it wasn't just Arab, and it wasn't just Iranian. Anyone could join this axis. The idea was of this axis ultimately is to have sovereignty and territorial integrity, which the UN friggin' charter guarantees us all as humans. All right. That is an idea that everybody can get behind.
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly.
And the thing is, we are not without agency in this region as a result of this axis being around. You may not agree with every idea in this axis, but it is the only player on the scene that puts great stock in sovereignty and territorial integrity. Okay. And by the way, elections. All right. All of the countries that, the axis operated in had elections. You could question the integrity of the Syrian elections. I will allow you that, but not in Lebanon, not in Iran, not even in Iraq. So here's the thing. I think because of this efficiency, no matter what happens in this cataclysmic change that's coming, you have actors who are organized, institutionalized, okay, extremely capable. These are mathematicians and engineers, okay? They're not just, these guys just don't go fight military wars. They create instant portable hospitals wherever they go. They create supply lines. If there's a shortage of something, they can get them across the border to help populations. We have an efficiency here that didn't exist for so many years. Certainly, with the Cold War and thereafter. So I have great hope that if there is a catastrophe, etc., as long as the beasts collapse, we can pick up the next day and build. That I have no doubt about. There was a time where I would have thought there'd be lawlessness. I don't believe that anymore. They may be in the Gulf states because you don't have that kind of, natural resistance opposition there yet, right? And the institutionalization of these, but not in the Levant, from all the way from Lebanon to Iraq, Iran, Syria, these countries, Yemen, etc. There are capable, Oman, there are capabilities, right? And we can build the next day, but the dragon has to be felled, and this is not a cute, good dragon. This is a ferocious animal.
Yeah, we saw this in Lebanon after 2006, after the Israelis destroyed the Beirut southern suburbs. After a few years, when you go there, you won't believe that this area was targeted like every day with dozens of Israeli planes, and also applies, for instance, for Yemen. The Yemenis had like few missiles when the war started in 2015. At the end of the war, they targeted Riyadh, and few years later, 2 or 3 years, they targeted Tel Aviv. And I want to tell many of our viewers, because many people are asking me, asking me, do you think Iran still have missiles? I told them, the Yemenis manufactured missiles that reached Riyadh and Tel Aviv under fire. They didn't have it before. And Hezbollah still are able to target any place they want in Israel. So think about Iran. Of course, they have the capability. Sharmeen, also, I wanted to mention something. Yeah, I want to mention something also, information for our viewers, that I was talking about Bahrain and these countries, how they always rush to aid the United States, and the United States left them. They didn't only left them. I don't know the United States. I thought they were smarter than that, and then I thought the military is really professional. But what Trump and the military is doing is just digging more and more for these countries. For instance, the CENTCOM released like photos previously from them firing from Bahrain. And Bahrain is saying, no, we don't have military there. We have the friendly fire that happened, that they acknowledged 3 F-15s were down, were above Kuwait. Kuwait was saying, no, our airspace is not being used against the Iranians. This also applies to Saudi Arabia, when an airplane, by maybe mistake, was shown that it's flying above Saudi Arabia. And yesterday, Trump dropped the biggest bomb ever. Saudi Arabia are still saying, no, our airspace is not used against the Iranians. Again, I'm not saying that Saudi Arabia is doing this or not. I believe that these countries, even if they took that decision, they can't prevent the American from initiating attacks. But yesterday, Trump said, yes, we had planes there, and they were targeted by Iranian missiles, and we have 5 damaged airplanes in Saudi Arabia. But don't worry, a few days they will be repaired and go and and continue their missions.
Trump said 4 of them are already back in action. One will be shortly. It's God. Americans don't die. I mean, American troops, they don't die. Only contractors and National Guard. Right, for some reason, and American assets, military assets,
and Israelis too,
never get destroyed. So yeah, let's leave it on that. I do, I feel like, I don't know, a whole hour passed, and this is how Karim and I normally talk, unless he says something that is just outrageous, and I go,
and then something that's true.
But this is how we normally.
I want to end with this, Sharmeen. Yeah. Regarding to stay in the same topic, but for the Israelis. So what happened is that Interior Ministry in Israel, they released a statement. They said, we have received 11,000 compensation claims since the start of Operation Roar of Lion, including 7,648 damages. Okay? There are, according to the Israeli government, 7,648 buildings have been damaged by Hezbollah and Iran since 15 days. This was released yesterday night. So, as you said, nothing falls in Israel. As you said, Americans, they don't die, and they don't get hit. So, do you have a final word, Sharmeen? I want to talk about Lebanon a little bit, but
I think you should say something about Lebanon. Before we go, just an update.
Just an update of how the media and how the government is dealing what's happening now, because there were talks following our president last week, when he said that he's willing to talk directly with the Israelis, and the Israelis refused, and some media said no, they will meet in Cyprus. Put this aside. So what happened 2 days ago? Channel 12, they had an analyst, Israeli analyst on the Israeli Channel 12, and he said that I wish the Lebanese fight the resistant Hezbollah because it's easier for them and for us, and it's like lower cost than when we continue this war. This was said yesterday and today. We have people in the parliament, we have influencers in Lebanon, we have the Lebanese media. All the idea that they are pushing, the narrative they are pushing is that yes, let's fight Hezbollah internally. It's easier for us to do it. We have a deputy in the parliament today. What did he say? His name is Mark Dow. He said, "Do you want Israel?" He's talking to the anchor, of course. He told her, "Do you want Israel to invade us? The cost of internal confrontation is far lower than the cost of allowing Israel to occupy Lebanon." That's the mentality that they are pushing, and that's why you see many people, there's percentages, there's so many people that are believing them, and these people, by default, they sometimes turn on to spies, or sometimes will take like decision-making position in Lebanon, because unfortunately, my country, they don't have ally, and they allow the Americans to do whatever they want in Lebanon, and previously they allowed the French and now the Americans. So that's what's happening in my country, unfortunately, and many people are frustrated. And I just want to comment something because people don't know it. We were talking about that the nature of the region will rise again, and it will be more pan-Arab, and we will know who's our enemy and who's not. I want to say something that I would love to say, and people might not understand me. The most hardcore Arabs I have ever met in my life were all Christians. And Charmin maybe know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, I mean, true. Or maybe it just surprises you because they aren't Christian. Somebody here is saying, hold on. Oh, here we go. Cyber Ninja Zero is saying Karim and Charmin spent a whole episode without interrupting each other. Clearly, this means Esteban is the instigator between them. Yeah, that's right. No,
I have an answer because I said it a few minutes ago. Today's episode is for the big picture. And in the big picture and the final results, I agree 100% with Charmin, and she agrees with me. We usually have like these small details that we argue on, but the big picture is clear for everybody, and even for the people that are with the United States, now they are saying they can't win this.
And honestly, what you see is what you get with us. There's nothing different in the way we talk off camera than on. Certainly as the show has gone along, we've continued, we've just gotten more comfortable in this format. And so it truly is the way we think. I'm really glad for that Lebanon update. I had a phone call with, and you know who this person is, but I cannot say it on air, my big security official friend. And he said, "Oh, everything's really good here." And I go, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" He said, "They have cornered themselves, okay? The shits have cornered themselves. And it doesn't matter what they say or do. Nothing counts except precise military action. Don't be distracted by all the other stuff."
Yeah, because what's happening on the ground is far more bigger than them.
It is. And let me tell you, everything's going to change in this region, So where are you going to get the information of all these changes taking place on the ground day by day? From the Levant to the Persian Gulf, right here on the Cradles News podcast, which is running daily at 8 p.m. Beirut time. What is that, EST? What is that, Eastern Standard Time?
Two, if I'm not mistaken, 2.
Yeah, 2, because y'all change your times. So, yeah, please come join us. We're learning alongside you, but of course, we're mired in this stuff, so we hope we're here to bring you new details and new angles every single day. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Karim. It was Nice chatting.
Yeah.
And we'll be back tomorrow with our full crew. So take care and thank you for being a Patreon. This is a really important time. I don't want to underestimate this time. We are, everyone's money's tied up in this region. So if you're able to donate to become a Patreon, most importantly, so we can have monthly contributions from you and we can then plan our activities, that would be so much better. Please, please, please join as a Patreon for as little as $5 a month. Subscribe to all our channels. Smash that like button so Esteban won't cry into his pillow tonight. And thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Karim. You can have the final word.
Bye-bye.
The cradle exists because the world does not need another mouthpiece. It needs a mirror and sometimes a megaphone. We report from West Asia from inside the region, not from Washington, Tel Aviv, or London. We're fiercely independent, no government directives, no corporate backing, no editorial leash. We publish the story that legacy media buries, and we do it at great risk. Our reporting unsettles the powerful, exposes contradictions, and gives voice to the silenced. But independence is not free. If you believe West Asia deserves to shape its own narratives, now is the time to act. Click the button, contribute, keep the cradle independent, and let us do the legwork for you.